Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. On the first day of Amber Heard's testimony in chief, everyone noticed that Johnny Depp didn't seem to make eye contact a single time with Amber. In fact, after that session, I was the first to comment on this, followed by one of Law and Crime Network's pundits, who said not only was no one talking about this, it was bad legal strategy from Depp and from Depp's team. But now we see that this wasn't necessarily a strategy, but a pledge based on Depp himself promising his former wife in 2016.
You will not see my eyes again.
That's not entirely accurate.
As early as the second day of Amber's testimony, Depp did sneak a glance at his wife while she described their wedding day and how handsome he looked. It's this moment at 3:08 in my video, the most powerful moment in Depp versus Heard. If Depp wore his glasses throughout day 1 of Amber Heard's testimony, he wore them less on day 2 and I think least of all on day 3. It has to require some sort of superhuman skill to sit in court with everyone watching, with the world watching, while your ex-wife sits directly in front of you describing what you did, while adamantly refusing to make eye contact with his accuser. But presumably he did look at some of the exhibits on the monitor in front of him. Johnny Depp is trying to win this case in the court of public opinion, and while I think he's succeeded at that, the dirty laundry that's being aired is likely to have a long-term impact, not so much on the public, but his prospective employers. If there was a fudgy sense of Depp, that has since crystallized in people's minds, one way or the other, on either side of the fence. What I want you to do now is listen to a little bit of an extended version of that clip. That is a plaintiff's exhibit. It is something that is a recording. I presume it was recorded by Depp because his voice sounds a lot louder. So I presume he was secretly recording this final meeting. And what is really interesting is it's a exhibit that they offer, that they kind of volunteer, that they provide to the court, right? And you've got to kind of ask yourself, in the one sense, they're proving their point, but on the other sense, is it really putting Depp in a favorable light in terms of, for example, his employers? Even if people support him, what sort of light does it put Depp in terms of him revealing what he said in his own words?
No, George, you're in fucking No, we'll never see each other again. You won't don't take my fucking glasses off. You don't like fucking looking at not my fucking eyes? You will not see my eyes again.
According to entertainment litigator and defamation expert Daniel Guttenplan, pro-Depp social media, according to him, quote, frankly means nothing for the case, end quote. Guttenplan, that's a name that translates literally to good plan, also says the following, quote, defamation is very hard to prove. First and foremost, truth is an absolute defense to any defamatory statement. So regardless of the alleged defamatory statement, if a defendant can establish that it is true, the defense is going to win, end quote. Now, the defamatory statement is supposedly this op-ed. On the one hand, you can defend the op-ed. On the other hand, all you've got to do is prove that what is being inferred from the op-ed is true. And if you can do that, the defense is going to win. But I would put it slightly differently. If the jury believes just one of Amber's scenarios is either somewhat true or substantially true, as the UK court did, then Johnny Depp loses. They don't have to believe all of it. They just have to believe some of it. But what do you think about these standards of reality when it comes to accuracy in terms of facts and observations? You even have Depp's lawyer, Camille Vasquez, saying that he hasn't looked at you once, has he? And yet here's another example of Depp never looking at Amber. It's kind of the inverse equation of she never sheds a tear, except there are tears, except that we see that he does look at her. And often when he does, he sneaks a look. But are we, who are watching this case supposedly hour by hour, supposedly with vigilance, are we very vigilant? Are we very good at attention to detail? Just in this little dynamic of Johnny apparently so hurt and betrayed by his horrible ex-partner that he refuses to look at her while the world watches him and her, I think it speaks volumes of the real Johnny and Amber. I also think the idea that he never looks at her, this whole idea that he doesn't ever look at her and then make a big deal out of that, mention that in the cross-examination, emphasize that by playing the audio, when actually he has been looking at her. I think that speaks to the overall farce that has captivated everyone's attention, or should that be inattention. And doesn't it also show how gaslighting works? I mean that it really, really works. Even when the veil is removed and you're told or shown you're being gaslit, you still see things the way that you see them. It shows, I think, just how biased the average person is, and that facts and evidence, even in a trial situation, mean so little. In a trial, we need to pay attention to details, and how good are we at that? I think we've become very poor, not just as arbiters of justice, but discerners of reality. And obviously, if we can't pay attention to the details in somebody else's life, in a case that is to do with somebody else, how good are we at doing that in our own lives? How good are we at looking at the mirror and seeing what is wrong, what needs repair, what needs attention in our own lives? Now, I've seen another legal commentator seeming to believe that both people in this case are equally bad, equally not credible, and that in his assessment they should each get $1 in terms of a settlement. I see it rather differently. Amber Heard's op-ed does have to be measured against the defamatory Daily Mail articles highlighted by her attorney, Elaine Breederhoff, at the conclusion of her testimony in chief. The difference, and that's also something that no one is seeming to be talking about, those articles. I mean, this is a defamation case. Why not focus on that? And I think the difference is Depp's attorney mentioned Heard by name in those articles, described her accusations as a hoax, and Heard suffered real loss of income in the immediate aftermath to these articles coming out. And this is definitely highlighted and mentioned specifically. What projects were you working on? And then did that continue after these articles came out? No. And on and on and on. And I think one's got to weigh up the possible malice in the op-ed to the possible malice in the Daily Mail articles. I think the fact that Heard's lawyers sanitized the document and made it fit for purpose, and the fact that Depp's name isn't even mentioned, indicates not the intent to be defamatory, but the opposite. Can the same be said of those Daily Mail articles? Incidentally, the trial isn't over yet. Amber's sister Whitney, Ellen Barkin, and Johnny Depp have yet to testify in Amber Heard's defense. If you're still on the fence or roaming the fields of #JusticeForJohnny, I suggest you watch the rest of it. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.